Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Fraser, and welcome back to the High Performance Show, where we look at the latest cutting-edge psychological research around how do we perform at our best. Now, this episode is all going to be about how we prevent burnout by making recovery a regular habit. And what we've shown in our research is there are 6 key drivers of high performance. The first one is to have regular recovery, which we're going to look at today, to have mental toughness, to have a mindset that's around mastery, to have connected relationships, a focused mind, and lastly, self-awareness. So in terms of regular recovery and preventing burnout, well, burnout is so common these days just because the world's going so fast. Like, I was in a gym the other day that had a thing called speed yoga. There's a thing called a 1-minute bedtime story that people can read to their kids. And I think Will Ferrell said it best. He said, before you marry a person, you should first make them use a computer with slow internet to find out who they really are. This is the reality of our world, is we're going really fast. And because of that, burnout rates are so high. Now, one of the things about burnout is that it has a huge impact on you. It affects your ability to focus, your ability to think clearly. It saps your enthusiasm, your energy levels. And the biggest thing about burnout is that it affects the way we think. Now, here's 2 brain cells. Now, we have about 100 million of these things shoved between our ears. And the thing about our performance is determined by the way our brain cells interact. Now, no brain cell touches another one. There's a gap in between it. It's called a synapse. Now, what happens is when a signal goes through the brain, when we think or when we tell ourselves to move, a signal runs through our brain cells, but it gets to the end, it releases a chemical called a neurotransmitter, and that signal keeps going. So what's going on around our neurotransmitters? The chemicals that are in there affect how our brain functions. Now, there are 3 neurotransmitters we want in our brain. The first one is serotonin. Now, this makes us feel calm. It elevates our mood. It makes us optimistic. It makes us tolerant. When we fall in love, serotonin elevates. When we eat some foods or take some certain drugs, serotonin elevates in our brain. Makes us feel good. The next one is dopamine. This is all about attention, clear thoughts, feeling happy. We want dopamine in our brain. And the last one is noradrenaline. This is all about attention and motivation and arousal. Makes us feel pumped. Now, we want those 3 chemicals in our brain because when they are in our brain, we think clearly, we're juiced, we're at our best. Now, let's look at the dark side. There's 2 chemicals called cortisol and adrenaline. Cortisol is our angry drug. It's the thing that gets us ready for action. It makes us aggressive and less tolerant. The other one is adrenaline, which we all know, which is our stress response, gets our thoughts racing and our body ready for action. Now, the thing about cortisol and adrenaline, we want them, but we only want a little bit of them. And the problem with burnout is what happens to our chemical profile in our brain is that these ones drop and these ones rise. And when we have that imbalance, that's when things fall apart. That's when we don't perform very well. So the problem with burnout is it changes our brain chemistry for poor performance. So what we've got to do is look at how do we recover regularly to keep these down and these ones elevated. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, my research around recovery came from the world of sport. I used to work with elite athletes, and burnout was a huge issue for us. Now, if you look at Novak Djokovic, the guy has had an interesting career. Now, he burst on the scene and won a bunch of tournaments. So 2006 was his sort of breakthrough year, made a Grand Slam final in 2007. 2008 actually won a Grand Slam. So the guy was kind of the next big hope. But then in 2009 and 2010, he couldn't win anything. He didn't achieve anything in those years. But then he came back in 2011, won, couple of Grand Slams, became number one, and the rest is history. From there right up till now, he's he's the number one tennis player in the world. Now, the big question is, what happened in those 2008 and 9? What went wrong? And I was talking to Anne Quinn, a friend of mine who's a high-performance coach in tennis, and what she said is that in 2008 and 9, the guy burned out. He was training too much and he wasn't recovering. And all that changed is they reduced how much training he was doing and dialed up his recovery. So after a match, they would put him in a barometric chamber flooded with oxygen to help him recover. He traveled with a nutritionist. He would have ice baths after tournaments. What they focused on is how could they help him recover really, really quick. And what he says is this was the key to his success. And now sport is being very focused on how we actually recover. And when I was at the Institute of Sport, one of our big challenges was the Olympic team would often burn out just before the Olympics. Because it's a fine line between overtraining and undertraining an athlete. And when you overtrain an athlete, that brain chemistry shifts, their immune system starts to drop, they get sick, they fall apart. Not good. And we did a study looking at how do we prevent burnout. And what it came down to was that not only did we work them hard, we also rested them hard. And I'm not talking they got 3 weeks in the Bahamas. They got an afternoon off occasionally. They got a day off every so often. What we found, the key to preventing burnout was short, regular, and consistent bursts of recovery. What do we do each day? What do we do each week? What do we do each month to help ourselves recover? Now, we took this message from the sport world to the corporate world. And what we found is people weren't that receptive of it because we often wear exhaustion as a badge of honor. We think if we're not tired and burnt out and stressed, we're not working hard enough. And I would talk to people about burnout and I go, how are you feeling? They go, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out right now. I said, what are you going to do about that? They go, oh, I've got a holiday in 3 months. I'm just going to cane myself and then I'll relax. This is a stupid way to look at burnout and recovery. What we've got to look at is how do we have those short, regular but consistent bursts of recovery. Now, we then did a study with a bunch of executives and we actually found that there is a really simple formula that stops burnout. And this is it. Now, what we did is we got people to follow this formula. And the first part of this formula is what do you do each day to help you relax and recover? So we got a bunch of executives and every day we got them to do some relaxation. So some people did a meditation, some people listened to a meditation app or a relaxation app. Some people said reading a book of a night time really relaxes me. Some people said exercise. When I exercise, I feel relaxed. But the first part of this model was every day they had to do something that relaxed them. Every day they did something that just calmed their nervous system and made them relaxed. The second thing we got people to do is each week do something that juices you. And what I mean by this, makes you feel alive, makes you feel, some people said a yoga class, like I come out of that class, I just feel amazing, or I get a massage. Or one guy in the study just said, I go to the beach and walk along the beach once a week on a Sunday morning. And he said, I just feel alive. Or socializing with friends or a hobby. But it was something that just makes you feel alive and brilliant, because too often we give so much and we don't put stuff back in. So those were the first two parts. The third part was each month have a day of no responsibility. And this is a day where you wake up and you have no agenda, nothing to do, and no one to look after. You literally wake up with a day that has no plan. Now, when we told people to do this, particularly people with kids or families, they just went, oh, there's no way I can do that. But what we found is with planning, anyone can do it. We had single mums who said, oh, there's no way I could do that. But they would talk to a friend and go, could you take the kids on a Sunday for just half a day so I can have this day to myself? If they wanted to do it, they could find a way. But what we found is of this model, this is probably the most important part. This day massively rejuvenates you and feels amazing. Because most of us are scheduled within an inch of our life and we're looking after other people and we've got stuff to do. This day of no agenda massively helps people recover. Now, the fourth part of this is every quarter have a long weekend. So you add a day to your weekend and you just have that 3-day weekend once a quarter. And lastly, the annual holiday. Australians have so much holiday leave accrued, it's ridiculous. But also in the US, in New Zealand, in Asia, people aren't taking their holidays. And every year you must have an off season. You've got to have that period of time where you have that holiday. It is really, really critical. Now, what we did is got these executives to follow this formula. Burnout didn't even come anywhere near them. Particularly this lower part of the model was so important. So that's the first thing in this episode, is start to take this formula and follow it, particularly that short, regular, consistent burst each day or each week. This formula is the key to preventing burnout. Now, the second part of preventing burnout is to look at the quality of sleep that we are getting. And the results show that people today, their quality of sleep is really, really poor. We've almost forgotten how to sleep. And the thing about sleep is it's quite complicated. You can't just wing it. You've got to know the science of sleep. And I'm going to give you 10 tips to dramatically improve your quality of sleep. Now, the first one is to get regular. Now, this has nothing to do with fiber. What this is about is having the same bedtime and the same wake-up time every single day. Now, I'm sure people watching this, you've been jet lagged. Now, how does jet lag feel? It feels terrible. It feels awful. Now, the reason for jet lag is your body clock and your external world are out of sync. They're not aligned. And the thing that creates jet lag is something called your circadian rhythm. So you have this rhythm in your body that lasts for 24 hours called your circadian rhythm. And this controls when you're asleep and when you're awake. Now, when you're jet lagged, that circadian rhythm is out of whack with your external environment. However, most people jet lag themselves during the week. Because what do we tend to do on a Friday and Saturday night? We tend to stay up late. What do we tend to do on a Saturday and Sunday morning? We tend to sleep in. And what happens is you push your circadian rhythm forward and you give yourself a mini case of jet lag. Now, have you ever on a Saturday morning woken up, you go, oh, it's the weekend, awesome. You go back to sleep, but you woke up feeling worse than if you got up at your normal time. Yeah, because you've jet lagged yourself. Now, the thing about this, and this is the reason why most heart attacks occur on so picture this, it's 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. Your body's lying there. It thinks we've got a couple more hours of sleep because on Saturday and Sunday morning we slept longer, so that's our new sleep pattern. So it's lying there expecting more sleep. The alarm clock goes off and you wake up and you think, oh, your body's going, what the hell's going on here? I wasn't told about this. And what happens is you're slow moving, it's hard to get out of bed, because your body's not expected to get up right then. And this is the reason why most heart attacks occur between 6 and 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. It's a peak time for heart attacks. Why? Because your body's not expecting to wake up, so it's all stressed and overwhelmed. The key with having good sleep is to have the same bedtime and wake up time every day. Now, a couple of things about this. The wake up time is the most important. And if you have a big night, obviously, you're not going to get up at your same time, but like maximum about 1 to 1.5 hours, I would not sleep in more than that because you create sleep inertia and you jet lag yourself. So the ideal thing is try to go to bed at the same time and wake up the same time every day. And on the weekend, if you're going to do that, make sure you don't do it more than for about an hour. Aim for that regularity. And we'll talk about how you catch up on sleep in a moment. But that's the first one. The first tip is to have regular sleep and wake up time. Now, tip number 2 is about don't be hot in bed. Now, I know there's an obvious joke there, but what this is talking about is temperature. Let me ask you a question. Is it easier to sleep in summer or winter? Winter. Why? Because in summer, you're hot and you find it hard to go to sleep. Now, one of the triggers for us to wake up is a rise in body temperature. So after about 3 hours...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.